Welcome back. Relatives of the Nottingham attack victims are getting free legal help from lawyers who have been representing Post Office Sub-postmasters. Yesterday marked 1 year since Barnaby Webber, Grace O'Malley KUMAR and Ian Coates were killed by paranoid schizophrenic Valdo Calocane. The families are calling for changes in the law and a public inquiry into multi-agency failings which allowed the killer to be in the community. Well, joining me now in the studio is Barnaby's mother, Emma Webber, and the solicitor, Neil Hudgell, who has been representing victims of the Post Office scandal. Emma, Neil, very warm welcome to both of you. Good to see you this morning. Emma, to you, first of all, the 1 year anniversary yesterday must have been a very, very hard day for you.
Yeah, it was a difficult day, but I think every of the other 364 days were difficult as well. But the build-up to it was almost worse than the actual day because we were in Nottingham, we chose to go. We were with the Coates and the KUMAR families and our friends, and I can see there from yesterday. And being together, it was appropriate yesterday to do what we did. And
today, the day after, you've decided that now is the time to fight for many of the things that you thought went so badly wrong, and that those three people, one, of course, being your son, two very young people and Ian Coates, lost their lives unnecessarily. What are you trying to achieve?
Well, I think that the murders and the other attacks on the other victims were entirely preventable. And we would need a long time to go into detail of all of the failures that we're aware of, and I dread to think what we haven't even uncovered yet. And the fight's been going on, Sam, for the last year, actually, and it's been largely us as families having to shout loudly, having to dig, having to uncover. And we know something's badly wrong, not just leading up to the attacks. That was evident straight away, but since I just feel like, what next? What's going to happen next? And it's exhausting. It's the hardest thing in the world we're trying to process anyway, but we have to do it for our loved ones, and I couldn't not. But to have the offer of help from Neil and from Tim Maloney from Doughty Street Chambers, who have such an amazing pedigree and are such decent people, thank you. It feels like for the first time we've got a hand on our shoulder who can guide us, because we're trying to just this whole new world. We're not lawyers, police officers, so we've just had to try and do as much as we can, and I feel like it's time to hand over a little bit now.
Okay, and you were introduced to Neil. How did that come about? And because Neil, you've been representing the sub-postmasters, so you've been very much in the spotlight.
Oh yeah. Plenty going on with that scandal. But obviously we were introduced to the families, and I always say it's not a pleasure to be working for them. It's a privilege because it's such a horrendous situation, and they've done such a remarkable job over the last year. They've done more than any lawyer could do to bring this to the front of people's conscience. They've had so many expressions and apologies from the major institutions. They've met with leading politicians, but at the same time they're trying to grapple with the very deep grief of losing their loved ones. And it's such an impossible conundrum that they've been in that now we're past that first year. It's our job to try and bring some support, bring some sort of little bit of direction where it's needed to deliver on what Emma and the families ultimately want. And that's at the front and centre of this is they have got to come to terms with the loss of such dear family members in circumstances where it should never have happened. And it's our job to try and deliver on that list of things that they want to see happen.
Yeah, and Emma, it's not easy to try and get a change in the law, is it? And that's what you're looking for. You're looking specifically for it to be harder for those who are mentally ill to avoid a murder conviction.
Yeah, he said that he's got away with murder. If I can say that. We have so so many concerns about the criminal justice system and how the investigation from the police, the prosecution by the CPS, the reliance of the doctor's expert witness reports, that, and also the way we were dealt with as families, that until the 23rd of November last year, we were under the impression, as we'd been told by the police, that he's a murderer, he's going down for it. It's a case of getting, you know, we were thinking, how can we get him put away for life? You know, as it's now turned out, this monstrous individual who knew what he was doing, he planned those attacks. He's been in psychosis for years. He was diagnosed in 2020, but he managed to complete his 2-1 degree in mechanical engineering a year before, apparently under psychosis. But the fact that he planned, he hid his weapons, he'd had them, he hid in the shadows, he chose his victims, you know, that's not somebody who is diminished. There's an element of course he's unwell, and we accept that and recognise that must be treated. But he's chosen not to take his medication for years. He's chosen to not engage with support. But he's now a hospital patient and on an indefinite order. And the statistics are that 87% are out within 10 years and 98% are out within 20 years. So we've got a lifelong sentence of making him the next Ian Brady or Fred West, so that his name never goes away from the public, so that he never gets out. But I think more than that, there's a right and a wrong in this world, and right that he's treated for his condition, but it's wrong that there's no penal element for somebody who himself has said he knew what he was doing.
Yeah, I mean, but that is enshrined in British law. How easy is it to bring about change to that, Neil?
It's not easy. Obviously, the law on homicide is very well established, and we could speak for many hours about the intricacies of the law. There has been a Crown Prosecution Service review, and as part of that, there is a recommendation that there be another category of murder. So at the moment, we have murder, manslaughter, acquittal. There's no in-between. And very clearly what the families want to achieve is a change in the law to reflect those that may have some sort of partial explanation for their conduct, but brings about the certainty of a life sentence where in a few years' time, Emma and the families are not wondering about where Calocane's going to be in this process, whether or not there's going to be a doctor that certifies him fit for release, which then the Justice Secretary of the day endorses. And so it really is one of the key drivers here is to bring about a change in the law. And I think the energy and desire of these people is such that this is the start of that journey, and you know that's really where we want to get to.
But what we've seen, Neil, and I wanted to ask you about this, Emma, is that this journey is often very long, isn't it? Look how long the sub-postmasters have waited for justice, and we're doing a report in the programme as well about the Grenfell victims, the infected blood victims, how long they wait. They call for public inquiries, they take years. That's going to take a lot of energy, Emma.
I think it is. I think there's two things to note. It's worrying that we're hearing all of these and they're just listed, and there are decades of trauma and fight. And I applaud the energies that those individuals of all of those awful tragedies have shown just in their tenacity. But Barney, Grace and Ian aren't coming back. As hard as that is to say, what we do feel is we're a year on. We've already had the sentencing. We've already had the review. It felt rushed. It felt like just get this away, get it done. We don't feel that that part was rushed. If this bit takes a long time, then that's fine, because we'd rather it was done properly. And it's a case of, if we don't address this, it's a public safety issue, because it's not if it happens again, it's when.
Yeah. Because
of, well, the factors, they will all come out, but this individual should not have been out in the community. But our agencies like Leicestershire Police Force and Nottinghamshire Police Force missed countless opportunities to stop him just a month before he could have been stopped, and his direction would have changed.
I heard an interview with you that was so powerful that I had to pull my car over to the side of the road, because you were talking about, it was your open letter you'd written to the police forces about the disgraceful and totally inappropriate way that they were writing to each other about this. Did you get any response to that? Nothing?
Nothing. We've had a complete shutdown from Kate Maynell and the rest of the leadership team. And I'd asked and asked for that to be done privately. I didn't want to see them. It could be sent anonymously to them from me. We don't even know how many officers were in that WhatsApp group. But I wanted to take the opportunity to let them know, because I would imagine a lot of them are parents, how it made me feel and how I know it made the O'Malley Kumars feel, to have their children referred to with words like butchered and you know, I won't even say anymore. But they haven't even had the grace to send a message and acknowledgement. And I think that, again, there's a right and a wrong way of doing things. And, of course, people make mistakes. But just an acknowledgement and maybe making sure that doesn't happen again. But that's one of a long list of you know, WhatsApp policing issues, isn't it? And I hope with Neil, you know, to me, that's really important, that all of that toxicity and the bad apples get rooted out, because there's so much good out there with our emergency services, and I don't want to come across as, you know, being reflective across all police, but that lot, it needs to be addressed.
And as we finish the interview, Emma, you talk very much about keeping Valdo Calocane's name in the public mind. What do you want everybody to remember about your son, Barnaby?
I want to remember that amazing smile and those teeth.
Yeah.
As his friend Ollie at uni said, I'm going to miss your smile and your stupidly straight teeth.
Oh, he did have perfect.
Look at him.
Yeah.
Oh.
Very handsome young man.
Yeah, and Grace and Ian, you know, we have a new family. We've lost the most important, precious person, but we've got new family as well. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you very much for coming in to talk to us. It sounds like you've got a long fight on your hands, but it's been good to hear what you're doing.
That's
Thank
what
you very
we're ready
much.
for.
Yeah.
All right. You take care now. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks.